I asked him this particular question that I'm going to ask you now. Now, every time I ask it and I try and ask it to myself, it comes back a different way. So
That's all
I'm
right.
going to try and ask this
I'm
in the
intrigued.
most precise way possible to so that you can have a think about it. So my question to him was, if he had the ability to go back in time to when Jesus was around, would he do it knowing that what he believes in could be entirely true or entirely false? Would he do it? Hey Shane, how you going?
Good, thanks, Dex. How are you?
That's good. Yeah, not bad. I'm a bit
Good,
tired this
good.
morning,
Yeah.
but otherwise
cold
I'm pretty good. Now, today I want to ask you a question, and before I go into it, I thought I'd give it a bit of a backstory. Now, I run my own business now for almost 18 years, I think. It's an IT business. I look after small businesses with their computing needs and all of that sort of stuff. And prior to that, the business was actually a computer shop, and a traditional computer shop, sold parts, fixed PCs, put things together, fixed things up, and did home visits. And that's kind of how I started running my own business. And that was actually purchased through a gentleman who had the shop, and he started it himself. And I can't remember exactly how long he had it running, but he thought it was time to move on. So I purchased it. Lovely guy. I haven't heard from him in a while. I should actually reach out now that I think about it. But he was quite religious. He was into the Bible, to God, into Jesus. And he is my age. And from memory, from what I understand, he wasn't born into religion. He kind of discovered it a little bit later in life. And so at that age, when we met, 20 years, he was probably late 20s, early 30s. And he was a talkative guy. I was a talkative guy. So we had some excellent conversations on computers, on life, and of course, religion. And I remember one day when we were working together during the transition of selling the business, I asked him this particular question that I'm going to ask you now. Now, every time I ask it and I try and ask it to myself, it comes back a different way. So
That's all
I'm
right.
going to try and ask this
I'm
in the
intrigued.
most precise way possible to so that you can have a think about it. I'll answer it first and give you some time to construct your answer. So my question to him was, if he had the ability to go back in time to when Jesus was around, would he do it knowing that what he believes in could be entirely true or entirely false? If he had the opportunity to go back in time to either prove that the story of Jesus is correct or false, would he do it? Now, what I want to do is I want to change the scope of it to not just Jesus, but to anything, it could be spirituality, numerology, Reiki. It could be any kind of modality or belief or religion that a person has. If they could if they could go back to that period to prove whether it's true or whether it's false, would they do it? And his answer, I can't remember because we were both stumped. he just sat there and he's like, you know what? I don't know. And he goes, no,
Yeah.
of course it would, because it's true. And I'm like, well, it might not be. You know, this is the one chance that you get. And you could go back there and it could be entirely false. Like how will that change everything?
Mm.
So for me, if I was to ask that of myself now, in terms of religion, I was brought up Christian. Do I believe in God? I would have to say, like recently, I would have to say yes. I wouldn't say I never not believed in God. I believed in something. I had a belief in something, whether it's God or whatever label you want to put it towards. I believed in that. But recently, if somebody said, "Do I believe in God?" I would say yes. But in terms of religion, I wouldn't say that I'm Christian per se, but I do have that belief there. I'm more spiritual than anything else. And so if I had the opportunity to go back in time to confirm whether the story is true or not, would I do it? I would probably say no. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times in one of our episodes, but I'm not a science guy. I don't need to have evidence to know if something works. I'm curious, but it's not. I don't need hard facts. At least with this sort of stuff. An analogy I like to put towards people is Wi-Fi. We use everything's Wi-Fi these days, but I can guarantee you that 0.0001% of the population knows exactly how it works.
Yeah.
But we believe in it. We trust it, and we kind of have some understanding of how it works. Like I have some, but I don't know exactly how it's transmitted. Like I might have idea of parts of it, but it just works. I believe in it. And for the most part, people do as well. So, that's an example of people just having faith in something that just works. And for me, if I take that same thought and apply it to religion or spirituality, that's fine. I was just posting up on my numerologist's Facebook page. She started her own group, and I did an introduction page because it's just sort of starting from the ground up. And I said to her that numerology works for me, and it constantly works for me, but I don't need to dig into the details of it. I don't have to go into the history of who's done what and what they tried. I don't need to know that, because for me, if it works now, it works now. I don't want to mess around with it only to find something that could say knock the way that I'm thinking, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that sucks, right? So from that point of view, I wouldn't do it, even if it's false. I'm happy where I am in terms of what I believe in, what I know works for me, and shaping my life around the messages that I get. Whereas other people said, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it, no problem." And I'll say, "Well, knowing that what you've believed in for your entire life could totally be false," and they're like, "Yeah," and then they'll stop and go, maybe I'm not so sure." So that's my question. So Shane, if you could go back in time to confirm your beliefs, whether they're true or false, would you do it?
It's a very, very interesting question, that one. And while you were talking, I was kind of going, yes, no, yes, no. And I think I'd love to have the ability to do it, because similar to yourself, I was born into a Catholic family, and so they had their own set of beliefs, and certainly, every Sunday I was off to church, even though sometimes my parents didn't do it. That's kind of what you do. And so I was brought up on that belief, and over the years that's evolved and changed, and I've become very much more spiritual. And I understand, people do love their religion. There's a lot involved, and it's not just the belief of the religion. I think it's tied to so many things, to your community and family, all of that, and it's a part of belonging, I guess, and understanding. It's almost like a group, if you like, but you have this deep-seated belief in something, that really you don't have any evidence to show anything, and I guess that's the part of the belief, trusting in what others tell you has come before. So if I could go back 2,000 odd years, I think I'd love to have the ability to. Um, but having said that, if I was to even meet up with Jesus, I'd think he was an amazing dude and he's got all these amazing abilities. But would it become a religion or something? I don't know. Because when you think about it, that's taken thousands of years to kind of evolve into something that we know today anyway. I'd like to even go further back and meet the dinosaurs, I think, to be honest with you. I mean, there's certainly evidence for dinosaurs being here with their bones and things like that. Even recently, I saw a documentary, where they talk about what the dinosaurs did, what they sounded like, and how they would fly, and all of these sort of things, how they'd hunt. And for me, I go, how can you get all of that just from a set of bones? So I'd love to go further back and see that for myself. I think for me, that's more fascinating.
Yeah.
And but when it comes to the religion, I guess religion and these ideas that we have that we've built our society on. They are, after all, they evolve from somewhere. Whether it's a story or whether someone has seen something and it's become something. So there's a large part of it that's trust, and if you trust the people that you're speaking to, I guess you'll buy into that belief. I'm somewhat like you. If the belief I'm having right now works for me, it's working right now. I don't need anyone to kind of, you know, um, be on board with what I believe. As long as it's working for me and it's not harming anyone, that's the main thing, I think, for me. And so someone can try and disprove it. It doesn't really matter because I guess, like anything, you kind of prove things to yourself by certain things in life, I guess.
Yep.
Some people believe in miracles, say, and so they've seen something that that they've got their trust in that. Could they go back and see those miracles and kind of go, this is a miracle? There's some people these days that are magicians and could kind of claim to walk on water and things like that. Imagine if they had lived 2,000 years ago. You're gonna, say that they're the savior or something like that. I don't know. So I guess even if I'd seen something back then, I'd think this was amazing. But whether it would change my idea of things if you saw it the same, I don't know if it would. Yeah, even if Jesus Christ was here right now, I don't. I'm at the point where I don't not believe it. It's just something that I don't follow, if that makes sense.
Yep. It's funny because when you were talking, I actually had a revision of the question in my head. And the revision goes, if you had the opportunity to go back in time to prove or deny religion, regardless of whether you believe it or not, would you do it? And how do you think it would change your perception of things? Because if we're not Catholic or Muslim or Buddhist or anything, but we had the opportunity to think about to go back to see whether they were true or not, I think that would probably change me more than seeing if spirituality was real, because it's like a secret that you only have, that as much as you try and tell people about it, they probably wouldn't believe you anyway. But you knowing internally for a fact that it's true because you'd lived it, because you had this weird ability to do it, like it would kind of almost eat you up inside and then question things. It was it kind of reminds me it reminds me of this question that was asked. I think it was in a podcast. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it was relating to Joe Rogan somewhere, and his addiction to UFOs and aliens. And someone was asked, like, what do you think would happen if the government like fully admitted that aliens were real and all of this sort of stuff. And I think it's been asked in a number of different podcasts, and some of the answers varied. But one particular answer that kind of stuck with me was that the guest said something along the lines of, it could spell like the disaster of the human race. And the interviewer was like, what are you talking about? Well, it's, I think everybody realizes that at some point, there's lots of lies that are being said, but and so people wouldn't so much be angry about that. It's more the fact that as humans, we kind of think we're top of the chain, overall, right? It's not, in the water, we're not, in the sky, we're not, in the ground, we're not either. But generally, as a species, we like to think, we can do what we want. But we're now put in a place where here are aliens potentially that could destroy us. Like, what are we going to do? Is there going to be anarchy, sort of thing? Which kind of goes back to that question that I asked you ages ago. Would you like to know when you were going to die, or just let nature take its course, sort of thing? It's kind of the same kind of answer there. So, I still hold firm of not wanting to know, but if it was for other religions, I think it would still be the same as well, because it's like having a secret that for a fact is true could eat you up inside, and seeing other people, praying, whatever it is that they do to worship whatever belief it is that they have, in your head you're going, oh, that's just a waste. But on the flip side, you and I are talking as if it's fake. But imagine if it was real. Like, imagine if we go back and Jesus and God and everything that was in the Bible actually happened. That would mean that potentially if I did that, I would come back and I'd be like, that's it. I am Muslim. I am Christian. I am Buddhist. I'm whatever it is that I decided to go back and view and have gone, oh, like it actually did happen. Yeah. Like I'm wrong. So, it's funny because now that I'm talking about it now with you, I never went down that path, because in my head I've always thought to myself it could be a bit fugazi. It could be erring on the side of not. But if the opportunity was there and it proved to be 100% true, exactly as the scriptures have said, then it's like all bets are off. But the funny thing is, I reckon that I would almost just have the same amount of faith that the average good religious person would have. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to believe it anymore. Yeah. Because I can only believe as much as I believe, and that person over there who's been a Christian all their life, they probably believe in it wholeheartedly, and the Mormon just as much, exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know, but in a way, that actually scares me a bit more now, because I'm happy where I'm at. Yeah, I don't want to go back in time, and it's like, oh my God, all these religions, they're all true, and I'm like, well, which one do I choose? I'm happy with spirituality and doing this and consciousness, and I don't know. I think I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, you brought up quite a few good points there. The initial one, when you were talking about religion, and perhaps if you could go back and kind of disprove, I think you said, what it made me think of was the life of Brian. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Yep. And he accidentally knocks out Jesus and kind of takes his place. He's a very naughty boy. Yes. and no one else knows, right? There's like I was saying before, a charlatan, they could go back in time and kind of do the same thing. I'm a magician and I can do these things, and follow me, and you could follow them and, create this religion thousands of years later. All these people are bound down to you and praying and everything to you, but you went, oh, I was only kidding around. Don't take it so seriously. I was having a bit of fun. Yeah. But people do take religion obviously very seriously, and I'm not knocking it at all. If it's whatever it means to you is is great. Like I said, if it floats your boat and it works for you, then that's the best thing. But I think if, those that struggle, it'd be a great thing if they could go back in time and then either prove or disprove for themselves. For me, I'd like to do it for the sake of it, but I don't think it'll actually change anything for me. But he was saying about aliens, and that's something I would love to do, whether it
Yeah.
be going backwards, forwards, or even currently. But I would love to go to the scene of Roswell when
Oh
that
yeah.
happened, because I am a believer in UFOs, aliens, all of that sort of thing. I've even heard a story from one of my relatives. They didn't see aliens, but he believed there was a craft that was following him down a very long deserted kind of road. And he didn't realize it at the time. And he said it was kind of like football shape, but glowing above his car in the back. And then it kind of took off past him. And he was still kind of very puzzled by it until he got home. And so he reacted pretty, he was quite emotional about it afterwards. But that's how it kind of hit him, quite a bit of a delay. And I've always thought to myself, I want that experience. I want to be the guy going, I don't care if anyone doesn't believe me. I
Yeah.
want to see, and so yeah, I would love to go back and to Roswell when that happened in, what was it, 47, 48, something like
Yeah.
that. And I'd like to be at the scene of the crash.
Yeah, I know some people that that don't believe. I'm similar to you. I'm more in the believe camp than not. It's almost it's inconceivable to me how people could say that how vast the universe is, and that's something that science will say. They'll say that there are multiple universes, of which of those universes there are planets like us in there. So the number of planets that could be around, it's almost infinitesimal. Is that a word? Infinitesimal?
Yes,
Might be.
it
Yeah,
is
is it
now.
good? It is now. You know what I mean. And to say that we were the only signs of life in this entire universe is such a, like, it's a statement that I just can't get along with.
Yeah,
Like you're saying, what, that's the rest of the universe? Like there's just nothing there?
yeah,
Surely there's something there. There has to be something there.
absolutely.
But I think I would do that as well. I've not had any experiences myself. I've seen things that I've thought were something, but have never really, gone back to try and research things. I've not had any things chase me. Kind of sounds cool at the time, but I reckon I'd freak out. But I think that's probably, it's funny because it will almost bring that full circle where if you had the ability to confirm like whether or not like alien life forms exist, alien is in like not of this earth, right?
Yeah,
They're, you could say that an octopus is an alien in a way, but not of this earth. If you could confirm that they exist, that would almost confirm people's, not so much confirm, but it would solidify people's beliefs. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
almost like, well, if they're true, like I need something else to hold on to, whether it's my religion, whether it's something else, because like if that news comes out, then people are going to need to look somewhere for direction, for for life essentially, which I think is almost now that I think about it's pretty much kind of like what religion is in a way. It is basically a search for meaning and direction,
mm,
and and having something upset that or tilt the apple cart. And it could be, as you said, as something as simple as the discovery of aliens, or the confirmation that the government says, yes, there are aliens here, they've been here for a while, or we've been noticing these things coming from outer space, we're not sure exactly what they are. Even a confirmation of that will cause people to be like, oh, okay, this is the end of days that people are talking about. I'm going to go to church, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to pray, or so it's funny how doing that could actually bolster people's beliefs and their, and what it is that they choose to put the faith in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when I think about it and I look back and I go, there's a lot of things that I did in my life where I thought, if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have, I wouldn't have wasted all that time doing something.
Yeah.
And if I had known differently prior to that, right? And for me, sometimes I kind of look at religion like that too, like when I was, when I kind of walked away from being Catholic and went deeper into spirituality, I thought to myself, there was a lot of stuff that I did and believed during that time and practices and things like that, that I kind of felt a little bit stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd been taken for a ride a little bit, someone said, this is what you should do, this is what you believe, and all of that sort of thing. But I hadn't made up my own mind, it was kind of just, that's the circle you're in. There isn't anything outside of that, so that's what you do. And I kind of felt, wow, I wasted a lot of time during that time not exploring other options. And, is there anything outside of this? And so there was an element there where I felt a little bit stupid. And I think, when you're in a group and everyone is, excuse me, of a similar kind of belief, there's a unity there, and I think above all, you don't want to feel like you're kind of wasting your life. You know what I mean? With the things that you do, the activities that you do. And I think the older that I get, the less I know and understand the world in a way. But I kind of see it very differently in terms of, we're so ritualistic in the kind of things that we believe to a fault, and to the point where we're going to lay our life on the line for it as well. So if you're going to go to those extremes, certainly you'd want to know that you're following something that is worth following, and you're not doing it just because everyone around you thinks the same way. And so I think stepping out of your beliefs every now and then to kind of reevaluate am I kind of on the right track here? Or, like I said before, if it's working for you, it's a good thing, and you're not harming other people, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I kind of have as a baseline. It's probably going a little bit off track what we're talking about, but the thing with what you said with aliens and where the whole world would probably go into chaos because there's a higher species, if you like, in terms of, we believe we are on this planet, and don't think that, it's been said through science even that, it's conceivable there's other life out there, but they're not here yet. They probably haven't been able to get here yet, because if they're light years away or whatever. But that's a real guesstimate, really. It means they haven't seen it, have no hard evidence to really make any other claim, I guess. But the thing is, a lot of that too is based on trust in either what the scientists say and what the government says. And I think it's been proven over a long period of time too that's there's a lot of mistrust now in the government, even if the government said, there is alien life form. We know about the what was it called, the pill or something like that.
Tic Tac.
Tic Tac, that's it. like a pill, but not Tic Tac. The Tic Tac videos, right? So they're coming from as close to government as you can, without the government openly saying yes. It's a real thing. There are other governments around the world that openly are on board with the alien thing and do say it's here. And their societies haven't kind of blown up, you know what I mean? But there seems to be, and always has been from the inception of the UFO, kind of belief and the things around it back in the early 50s or late 40s or whatever. There's always been this thing of, oh, no, that's a non-event. It hasn't happened, and around that time, people did have trust in the government. We were coming out of a Second World War and everything, and so there was a lot of trust in their government. So spacecraft could probably land in your backyard, and if the government said no, it was something else, weather balloon or whatever,
yeah,
you go, all right, I believe you.
You know what the problem is? The just listening on what you were saying before, the problem is people like you and I, and that's what it is generally. It's
we are a problem.
It's questioning the narrative, and it's like exploring different options and poking at things and seeing what it's like on the other side. That's really what the problem is. And in listening to you speak, I was writing a couple of things down because it made me think about things in a different way. Now, at the start, I was talking about, owning my own business, and have done now, like I said, almost 18 years. And throughout that time, what I would do is, as I improved business skills and all of that sort of stuff, I would go back in my life and think to myself, who would be a really good business owner? It's not something I would do, I would plan to do. It would just come up in conversation. My thoughts, it would be, I would be in the middle of a job, or I'd be, negotiating something. And in my head, oh, such and such from my old company would be really good at this. They would do that. And sometimes I had the opportunities to speak with these people, and I would catch up with them, and I would say, hey, you'd make a really good business owner. Have you thought about doing it? And sometimes they would say no. And I'm like, wait, I kind of know who you are. We've worked together. I know what your skill set's like, and I know what, I know what skill sets are required to be, but you'd match. Like, why don't, he's like, I'm not interested. I'm like, oh. And I've run into more people like that than not. And I liken it to what Filipino life was and is to a certain aspect, many, many decades ago, where if you were given a good opportunity, you would go to school, you would go to university, you would get a job, and then you would work at an institution, and then you would retire. That's pretty much your life. And along with that, everything is almost done for you. Like, life is literally done for you. The religion that you followed, the food that you ate, the company that you kept, it's all, you kind of don't ask questions. Or if you did, there were already answers for them. Like, you grew up Catholic, you go to church, this is how you behave at church, this is what you believe. And millions of people go through their life like that. There's a video game term, it's called an NPC. It's a non-player character. It's basically a character in a video game that's pre-programmed to do what it's supposed to do. And it does sound a little bit rude, but that's how I can easily describe to other people what people are like when they don't have, I wouldn't say they don't have ambition as such, but they're just happy plodding along and just doing not even the bare minimum. They just would do what it is that they need to do. They'll retire at 65 and they'll like do whatever, and that's it. They're happy to call it a life. And like, wrongly, maybe, I guess sometimes they kind of get angry. It's like, life, there's so much to life. There's so many things that you should be asking or trying or being creative. And that's where, you and I differ. This is where people get into a midlife crisis, or they get into a particular age and they go, well, like, I've been doing this for so long. Am I bound to live the rest of my life this way. Some people are happy with that. Other people, potentially like you and I, would like to ask questions, like what's it like on the other side? Sometimes people get burned, but that's that's the price you pay, right? Or sometimes you don't. Sometimes you find a better way to do things. But the fact that you and I are willing to ask questions and to try certain things out, we're the problem, because we're not taught to, we're not following what life has recommended that we do. If we were to go back 20 years and follow the lives of our parents, and not so much say our parents in terms of immigration, but people that were growing up in the 80s, adults in the 80s, their life was their life was good. Don't get me wrong, it's probably a really good life, but in terms of what they did, there's they trusted the government. They had 4 channels on TV. The information was fed through these news channels, and so for them, everything seemed fine. And look, it probably was. But now, with people asking more questions about religion, questions about government, questions about aliens, questions about vaccines, questions about everything, and the answers not being so black and white, we're the problem.
Yeah.
That's and that's where things get a bit complicated, and you and I are having to start podcasts like this and talking about it because it's fun, right? Like, could you imagine 2 people that have had a really good life? I'm not saying that people that want this kind of life, I'm not saying it's bad at all. In fact, sometimes I look at people like that and go, that looks really fun. Like, it looks, it's not fun, is not the word. It looks comfortable. That's probably a better word that I would use.
Yeah.
Like going to the same job, doing the same thing, and then coming home and having this routine, and then just repeating that, and like living until you're 65 so you can retire, and then, maybe buy a house that's near the beach. I don't know. Like, for some people it sounds great. For me, it sounds like a bit of a nightmare. It sounds like I'm a little bit too boxed in, and I can't express myself in a way. I can't be creative. I can't do certain things that I think I would want to do. And that's where, this sort of stuff, allowing myself to believe in something regardless of the science, is where I kind of find joy in that, and not going, hey, but the science says this. Like, I don't care about the science. In fact, I think for some of the things that many people have thought were concrete evidence are starting to crumble down. Like, things like the pyramids are in question. Time stamping certain things is in question. Like, there are just so many things now that science is like, they're kind of backpedaling a bit. Even things like telepathy. I've been listening to the telepathy tapes for a while. It's an awesome podcast. And you and I, like, we know it, right? We kind of understand that sort of stuff. And I believe in it. I'm sure you do as well. And there's no science on it. There are tests. I choose to believe it, but then you have scientists that are like, no, this is garbage.
Pseudoscience.
They're doing this thing of where they're touching them on the elbow and they're giving them words and on how to spell. And it's like, I choose to believe it, and that's fine. But I'm questioning it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the average person, they'll go, I'm not saying average. I'm not saying that they're like this sort of way, but they'll just look at that and go, oh no, that can't be true, because science says that it's not. So I almost think that blissful ignorance on certain things, it can be seen as a really comforting way to live. Yet at the same time, it's almost it's constricting for me. That's what my feeling is. And people might want to say, well, look, I've changed jobs and done this and that. It's like, yeah, it's okay. But still, at the end of the day, it's, you're working towards this magical number with which the government will say to you, hey, you can now stop working and you can live off all this money that you've kind of saved, maybe or maybe not.
Yes.
And die old with your grandkids, I don't know. It just doesn't seem that it's right for me. But, obviously at some point in my life, I don't know, late 30s or so, I started to ask questions and have a look around things and found some things to be a bit, not quite right. But I had enough faith in it to give it a shot. And look, it proved me wrong to the point where I now believe in those sorts of things, i.e. numerology, energy, Reiki, whatever you want to sort of call it. And I don't need to know, the science behind it because it works for me.
Yeah.
If somebody asks me about it and they say, so how does it work? I'm like, I don't know. And I don't care.
Yeah.
Because it works, right? It's like
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, the thing at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Imagine if we were to do that. And it was so funny. Have you heard of Nate Bargatze?
No, I haven't.
He's
No.
this comedian. He's absolutely hilarious, but he is 100% clean, which is very rare. He's quite religious as well, but he's a clean comedian, doesn't swear, and he's hilarious. And he has this bit. It's one of his older bits, and it was something along the lines of he would make like the worst time traveler person. Because he would go back in time and he would tell people about mobile phones, but have no idea on how to explain it. It is the same thing. It's like, you've got this thing in your pocket and they'll say, oh, wow, how does it work? And he'll just be like, I don't know. I just turn it on and it works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my feeling with a lot of this sort of stuff. And, and I just believe in it. And, and people believe in things like Wi-Fi, people believe in the television, people believe in the internet. And, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the nitty gritty of how things work, most people just don't know.
And they don't care really.
And they don't care.
They know it works, right? It's there. But it's, I guess the only difference is it's tangible for them, and, with what we've done, it's tangible for us, but in a different way. We can't really show them, and like you said, can't really explain how the hell that works. But it's really questioning the status quo, isn't it? And just accepting things blindly. And I think, you mentioned in your 30s, you kind of felt things were not the way it should be or whatever. I think I was pretty much the same, in my early 30s. That's where I think I've said to you before, I went through this deep, dark depression. And what had happened before that time was, my life really felt like it was structured in a way that, you do this, you go to school, you study for these kind of jobs, you get those jobs. If you don't get those jobs, you haven't been successful. And you work till you're 60, I think, at that time, and retired. And now it's 70 something, I don't know.
95.
It seems to be moving further away the closer I get. But the thing is, around that time I felt like what's happening in my little world, the way things were set out for me, I thought that was the whole enchilada. This is all I could really go for. And this is going to sound really stupid. I know it does.
We've been talking about aliens, so it can't be that bad. So.
Well, listen to this. Even when I was in my early 30s, I believed that for anyone to have a business, you'd have to be born into it, or you'd have to be born into wealth. I never realized that you could actually go and just buy a business and become a business person. My mind was blown at that time. And I was, like I said, very, very kind of closed in my little world, in terms of what I was exposed to. So that kind of opened up my world to asking other questions. If I thought that, and that's not true, what else can maybe isn't true? And do I actually have to do this thing till retirement, or can I do some other stuff? Things that I actually enjoy. Up until that time, work was just about making income, and that's it. And to a certain extent, I was pretty happy, until I wasn't. And I
Yeah.
think the more I realized I could go and do these other things, but I'd been kind of wasting my time going in a different direction. I felt like it was a waste of time, um, because I felt like there was a lack of options that I had. You're born into this kind of world. That's where we stay,
Yeah.
and I went, it's actually not that way. And I think, talking about beliefs, and I think whether it be religion, aliens, even the way you live,
Dinosaurs. Yeah.
the kind of um, the format or the model that we've been kind of given. And we've all been given that same thing about, go to school, get a good job, retire, and that's it, and pass on your wealth, whatever you've created through your life, pass it on to your kids, and that really hasn't changed. But, is there other things available outside of that? And you go, yeah, there's a lot outside of that. And, there's a lot of people that are content, I think, living out that way until perhaps they're not. And I don't know what that is, whether they kind of go, have some epiphany that, I don't need to keep doing this, or maybe they get to the point where, maybe they are a bit more creative and they want more for their world, or their life. And the frustration comes from, I think, knowing that you can go and do that or believe in that and be that way, but you can't. You kind of restricted, maybe physically or something like that. Perhaps that's that frustration, and that's where that sadness and anger and whatever comes from, because you've got all this potential, but you can't do anything with it.
Mm.
And so that could be one thing. But there's people, I know of someone that I love to travel. I would go overseas today if I could. I absolutely love to travel, but that never happened until I was 40. And prior to that, I was kind of like, what do you want to go overseas for? You got everything here, right? And I went overseas, went to LA, and it was like, oh my God, even though they're kind of similar to Australia in a way, it's still very different. It's a different world. And it opened up my eyes to the rest of the world, and I started traveling to many different places. There's someone that I know that's a lot older than me. He's never been out of Australia except for coming from overseas when he was younger. And he has no ambition to go anywhere. He doesn't want to go on holidays. He won't even go interstate.
Yeah.
So he's got no cause to do that. And I said, how can you not want to go on a holiday? And he goes, no, I'm just happy doing my own thing every day, going to work, come home. That's it. And he seems to be really happy, but I don't understand it.
Yeah. That's the one thing that frustrates me as well, is that I don't know whether it's because I get frustrated that, like, knowing that there are people that I know personally that have potential to be great, to do better than what it is that they're doing. And sometimes they're just like, nah, I'm okay. I'm like, what? You can do this and you can do that. I know what you're like. And they're like, nah. And look, sometimes they're happy. Sometimes they say they're happy. Sometimes they don't want to because of fear. But it's, sometimes I just look at them and admittedly, sometimes I get jealous because it just seems like everything is fine.
Yeah.
And I guess they're okay, but every time I try and put myself in that position, I always say, well, if I did that, I'd probably do that for like a month, and then I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll quit. And, because in my head, I'm always thinking to myself, people always talk about wanting to quit work and work for themselves, whether it's their own business or whether it's just on their own. That's what people always talk about. But rarely do you hear about people talking about, hey, you should sell your business and work for another company. Yeah, that's not the dream, right? And so sometimes I get bewildered by people saying, I'm happy. I'm happy being in this role and doing what it is, um, and that always gets me thinking. I had a work reunion about 6 months ago, and some of these people I'd not seen for decades,
Mm.
and so I was pretty excited to catch up and just to see what they're all doing. Now, I wasn't going to, share a whole bunch of stories and say how happy I am. I was genuinely intrigued. And some people were just like doing the same thing for a different company. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
wait a minute. You could have done so much more. Like, why haven't you done that?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know. I don't know. It was really oh, hang on a minute. Someone's about to doorbell. Anyway, you keep talking while I answer this doorbell. Hang on a second.
No worries. All right, I'll just keep the show going. But I guess it is a thing where we get. Oh, you can hear me. I thought you were going for a while. I was going to say it.
Sorry, that
There
was
is
quicker than I thought.
a thing where we kind of. I was going to say get stuck in a rut, but maybe it's not that, because prior to my early 30s, where things went off the rails a little bit, I was really happy up until probably my mid 20s, before I learned a whole lot of stuff. And maybe
Yeah.
that's what it was, because my first job, it was I actually worked for. Can I say who I work for?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. Okay. I worked for Adidas, and it was just a menial job, laying fabric and cutting fabric up, that sort of thing. It was just a basic first job, and I was happy as Larry to do
Yeah.
that job, for a long time, and really good people and everything. I think I was there. It was about 7 or 8 years, and the next one I was there for about 13 years, and even that second job, I did quite a lot of different roles, and ended up in sales, and I think that was the turning point. But
Mm.
prior to that, I really enjoyed what I was doing, and even at that time, the whole idea of uh, I'll keep moving up the ladder, maybe go from sales to management, which I ended up doing, and but it was still that same model of try and get the best job that you can, buy as much stuff as you can, and then
Yeah.
retire when you're old and grey, and I was happy at that time to do that, and then like I said, the wheels fell off.
It's amazing. That would be the same for me. My first job was at McDonald's, and I
Yeah,
loved it. And
yeah,
going by that thought process, I could potentially still be working there because it was like a lot of fun, right?
yeah.
But yeah, it just it's amazing to me. Like I think about this constantly because I have friends that are
Mm,
kind of like that um, I saw potential in them. I saw something in them that, like, either rightly or wrongly, they don't see in themselves.
yeah,
And so when I put the question to them, like, you should try this or you should try that, it's like, no, I'm happy. Like, are you really? And I'm not saying they're not. They probably genuinely are, but I'm almost like I get frustrated.
yeah.
It's like you could do so much more. You could have so much fun. Like, but they're like, no, I'm having fun. Like, oh, okay, sure,
So
I guess.
interesting thought, that what you just said, they keep saying they're happy. And for me, it kind of comes back to that initial question that you asked, right? If you were to go back and either prove or disprove what you believe, and would all of that change? And the fact is they've got a particular model of the way they
Mm.
believe and see the world, and it's actually working for them, even
Yeah,
though we can see different for them. They're actually quite content, and
yeah.
maybe that's the secret.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because when I get into these thoughts and I expand upon it further, I always go down the path of some of the communist countries
Yep.
and try and apply that thinking. Um, because what happens is people go, oh, look at how they live over there. They're quite oppressed. They can't do anything. They can only do this, and I'm sure that's the case, right? But that's not to say that they might not be happy. In fact, I have heard of some stories like North Korea and parts of Russia and other countries and China. They're genuinely happy, but we look at them and go, yeah, but they can't go on Facebook, or they can't do this and they can't do that. And that's like the equivalent of me going to people that I know and saying, why don't you start your own business? Because you've got all the opportunities, but they're like, no, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But we're doing the same. And again, I'm not for communism or anything like that, but that's kind of the feeling that I put on it, because it's almost like it's self-imposed for them. But they can choose to do other stuff, but a lot of the times they don't. They just roll with the punches. They go to the same job. They try and work hard and put their best in, and hope that they get noticed for a promotion, rather than actually going in there and knocking on the door and saying, you need to promote me because I'm better than all of these. They just kind of sit there in the back and go, geez, I hope he picks me because I've been here for like 10 years. And they end up picking this other dude that's been there for 1 year, but he's just louder and brash and all of that sort of stuff. That's what I genuinely think of it. And it's weird. And I know there's stories out there of North Korea wanting to put out propaganda to show the world that there are some people that actually live there that are quite happy, and I reckon there would be, because they don't know anything else. They're born into this system. Okay, this is what we're going to eat, and this is what we're going to do, and a lot of the times people are just like, okay, well, it is what it is, and they're not aware of the opportunities. They don't seek them, but you will get obviously the bad story that, I wanted to do this and they've shut me down and this person got killed, and it's all very, very tragic. But that's what frustrates me even more, is the fact that, you and I live in Australia, and there's opportunities everywhere, and to then live life as adults were back in the 70s and 80s. It's like, why? You can do so many things. And if that thing doesn't work, you can go back to the thing that you were doing again, that just like try something different. It's only recently, I'd probably say in the past, maybe 5 or 10 years, maybe even just a little bit longer than that, where I've valued creativity like so much more. And, not from a place of, creating something beautiful or artistry or anything like that, just in decision making, in doing something different, in living life in a way that isn't just, okay, we wake up and we do this 9 to 5 and that's it. Some people get excited and go, but I get to work from home today. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you love what it is that you do? And I think people kid themselves, and it's like, like I look at numbers, or I do reports, or I do this, or like, really? Like, do you love doing that? And more often than not, it's like, yeah, but it pays well. Okay, well, I guess that's the force that's maybe sort of driving you. And then when it comes time to, make a suggestion, why don't you go out on your own? You've got these skills, you can do this and you can do that. I'm like, nah. Maybe their version of not happy is, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And the thing is, genuinely, they probably are happy, but maybe they're at that point in their life where, their circumstances just mean that they can't do that thing that they want to try and do, and fail, and then try and do something else. And, that's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's maybe too scary, or they've tried it a few times, and they've reserved to the point where going, it's not going to happen again. I was actually wondering, when you were talking about other places in the world, and and we live in Australia, and I wonder if other people kind of go, oh God, they live in Australia, poor things.
Well, I tell you,
horrible for them.
They say that now because that social media ban kicks in December.
What's that? Sorry,
there's
the media
social
ban.
media ban for like under 16s, and they were trying to.
Thank God I'm not 16.
Yeah, they were trying to force that on Facebook, and it's it's a weird time. There's just and the funny thing is, like, you and I are we're in Victoria, and we're copying it from other states. Oh my God, you live in Victoria. What's it like over there? Like, do you have to like wear a bulletproof vest and all of this sort of stuff, and your car's going to get stolen? It's like, yeah, it's all true.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I think you hit it on the head, when you were talking about other countries. You've been born into a system, and we all have to some degree. Like I said, when I grew up, there was a certain way of doing things, and that's only by the society that I was surrounded by, even in North Korea or Japan or even America or anywhere. We're all born into a particular way of doing things, into a system, and if you didn't know any different, you'd kind of go, "This is the way things are." And I think the fact that we've got so many liberties in terms of being able to be in touch with other parts of the world with technology, and we see other things, we kind of go, "How come it's like that there but not here?" And that kind of opens up your world. And I think if you can see that possibility for yourself, that's where you kind of go, if you can't do it, it gets very annoying. And I'm talking about this from a personal basis because I think that's what happened to me, and when I thought this is how things are, and that's the way we do it. Those people that are in those countries that we look at that are going through a pretty hard time, they don't know any different, perhaps, and kind of go, "This is how things are. What are you talking about?" And so they're pretty happy with how the system runs for them, I guess, and their internal system, their beliefs. And perhaps there's a lot of tradition involved in it too. Like I know even in Japan, that's probably changed quite a bit. But I was watching a show some time ago, and a guy was talking about how it's changing in their country, where generations prior, his father and his grandfather both worked for the same, could have been a car company or whatever, and it was just a given that you're going to do the same thing. One moves on, and there's a place there for you. You're supposed to go and work for the same company, and I was watching it and thought, what a different lifestyle that is, than what we've got. Yeah.
So they're saying you don't know what you don't know is pretty much spot on, right?
Yeah, very much.
All right. Shane, I think we should wrap this up because I think you've got to head somewhere. Now, before I do, I just want to say that you live your life how you want to live. Don't listen to me. You and I are just chatting. I don't like communism whatsoever. I'm just comparing it to certain things.
It's an option.
It's an option. Yeah. So don't take anything to what I say to heart. It's just two guys chatting about life.
Yeah.
Shane, if people want to reach out to you, where can they get you?
Awaken.guide.
Awaken.guide. And for me, it's dex.thedecafnetwork.com. Thank you very much, Shane. I will chat to you next week.
All right. Take care, Dex.
See ya.
See ya.